The other day I was scrolling through Facebook doing my best to avoid all of the horrendously awful political posts and ads, and I came across one that really captured my interest. The post said, "In New Mexico, it is illegal for idiots to vote." And I thought, idiots. Everybody's an idiot to somebody. That should pretty much disqualify the entire state from voting if that's the case. I went down this rabbit hole of wanting to find out more about that particular idiot law, and it turns out that yes, in fact, for years, New Mexico did have a law that disqualified idiots from voting. However, the term idiot in that context was meant to refer to somebody who had some type of debilitating mental illness or instability. The term idiot does not mean now what it used to mean back then. And the law was actually changed a couple of years ago. They removed the term idiot from the law as it seemed a bit out of touch. But after pretty much debunking the whole idiot law, I started going down another rabbit hole about weird New Mexico facts. I came across 10 that I thought were pretty interesting, and I wanted to go ahead and share them. And hopefully somebody can take a tidbit of information away from this, and they can take that information to New Hampshire or Virginia and spew these facts out at somebody who says, "Oh, New Mexico, do you have your green card?" New Mexico is more than just an updated version of the old New Mexico. We are more than just a place that really wants an in and out, doesn't have one and hopes to get one soon. We're more than the land of RVs and blue meth. So yeah, here are 10 of the most interesting ones that I came across. I wanted to dig a little bit deeper than just, the New Mexico state bird is the roadrunner. The capital of New Mexico is Santa Fe. New Mexico is the 5th largest state. So here are 10 weird and unique facts about New Mexico that I came across while just studying random things about the state. Some people may know these, and if you already know these, hopefully I was able to add a little bit of extra information in there for you. These are not in any particular order, by the way, but I thought we'd start off with something a little light, something that might be a little bit more common knowledge, but I still think it's interesting because I feel like so many New Mexicans can relate to this one. New Mexico is the only state in the US that puts USA on its license plates. This change was added in 1969 so that citizens from outside of the state would not confuse it with the country of Mexico. Typical, we've all been there. Even back then they were dealing with that garbage. Unfortunately, this update occurred 57 years after New Mexico officially became the 47th state in the US back in 1912. Surprisingly, New Mexico legally required vehicles to be registered as early as 1905, although the state required vehicle owners to make their own license plates. Man, that would suck. Like, you just bought this brand new horse and this brand new buggy. You want to go show that whip off down at the tavern, but you got to stop and get it registered first, and they tell you, "All right, man, you got to pay all these fees, but we're not going to give you a license plate. You got to go make your own. Get out of here." So that means instead of going to the tavern, you got to stop at the old general store, pick up some concentrated cocaine for your runny nose and your bleeding gums, but then you also got to fork over a couple extra bucks for some metal just to make yourself a damn license plate. Still not as bad as, other states not even knowing that you're a state in the US, though. That's pretty bad. All right. Conrad Hilton, founder of famous and lucrative Hilton hotel chain, was born in the town of San Antonio, New Mexico on Christmas Day, 1887. Hilton attended the New Mexico Military Institute, which was known as the Goss Military Institute, the Santa Fe University of Art and Design, which was known as St. Michael's College, and New Mexico Tech, which was known as New Mexico School of Mines. He was even elected to the state's first legislature back in 1912, where he served 2 terms. Although the first hotels that Hilton bought and built were located throughout Texas, the first Hilton-owned hotel outside of the Lone Star State was the Hotel Andalus, built in downtown Albuquerque in 1939. Man, my boy Conrad's New Mexico true roots run deep! So the next time you go on vacation to Canada or Brazil or even Idaho, and you check into your comfy little Hilton, just remember, #NewMexicoTrue. Alright, this one's for the baseball fans out there. In 1969, a new baseball stadium was built in Albuquerque to house the AAA Albuquerque Dukes. This new stadium, dubbed the Albuquerque Sports Stadium, was built in the same location where the modern-day Isotopes Park currently sits, and existed from 1969 to 2001. The very first game to be played at the new Albuquerque Sports Stadium was a scrimmage match between the Cleveland Indians and the San Francisco Giants. The very first player to ever step into the batter's box in this stadium's history was Willie Mays. Man, my boy Willie's New Mexico true roots run deep. Nah, his roots don't run as deep as old Conrad Hilton, but that's really crazy. I would have never guessed that Willie Mays had any type of connection with Albuquerque baseball. And it's almost like finding out that the first person to ever play live at Joey's Sports Bar and Grill in downtown Des Moines, Iowa was Michael Jackson. It's like, who would have ever guessed? Who would have ever guessed? From September to December of 2007, CBS aired a television reality show entitled Kid Nation. The show took 40 children ages 8 to 15 and placed them all on a movie set designed to look like a small western town. The premise of the show is to simulate a society that is completely run by kids without any type of adult influence or supervision. The children had to create their own form of government and carry out tasks and chores that would benefit the society as a whole. The show was produced and filmed at the Bonanza Creek Movie Ranch in Bonanza City, New Mexico, just south of Santa Fe. Founded in 1880, Bonanza City was, at one point, a thriving mining town before being abandoned in the early 1900s. The city has since become a Western-themed filming location. Some noteworthy movies and shows that have been shot there include Longmire, Cowboys and Aliens, 3:10 to Yuma, and Wild Hogs. Man, 2007, so I look back at that time, I would have been in like 7th grade, and I never remembered this show, Kid Nation. I've gone back and watched clips on YouTube, and it is not familiar to me at all. That just sounds like a super crazy type of show to put out. But Bonanza City, man, I don't know what was going on in New Mexico in the late 1800s, but Bonanza City, that's a horrible name for a town. That is a awful name. You know, no wonder the town pretty much shut down by the early 1900s. You know, nobody wanted to live there. They were too embarrassed. Nobody wanted to stop, so they just rode by, laughing at it while they were on their wagons. Alright, if you're from New Mexico, you know about the Balloon Fiesta. If you're not from New Mexico, you know about the Balloon Fiesta. Statistics show that the 9-day event in 2019 attracted over 850,000 spectators, with over 70% of them visiting from outside of New Mexico. The Balloon Fiesta garnered over $186 million of positive direct and indirect economic impact for Albuquerque businesses. One source in 2016 also stated that Balloon Fiesta officials have deemed it the most photographed event in the world, with an estimated 25 million plus photos being taken at the event per year. That's pretty impressive considering that the event, which started in 1972, first took place in the Coronado Mall parking lot with only 13 balloons, and now there are over 600 annually. Man, I knew that the Balloon Fiesta was a big deal. I knew that a lot of tourists would come to see the Balloon Fiesta, but 70% of them visiting from outside of New Mexico. I would have never guessed that the number was that high. It makes you think, you know, when you're walking around the Balloon Fiesta, those years that you get to go, you're just surrounded by tourists. Tourists who are gonna go to Sadie's or El Pinto later that night for dinner, and when the server asks them, would you like red, green, or Christmas? The dad will say, Christmas, but it's not even Halloween yet. That was a horrible joke. The Roswell UFO incident is a cherished urban legend that burrowed the ideas of conspiracy and paranoia into the mind of the American public. In the summer of 1947, a rancher by the name of W.W. Brazel found the remnants of what appeared to be an alien craft on his ranch approximately 75 miles north of Roswell. United States Army officials originally deemed the wreckage to be part of a flying saucer, and yes, that was the actual terminology that they used, but soon after stated that the remnants were part of what appeared to be a weather balloon. In 1994, however, U.S. Air Force officials trashed all previous claims and stated that the wreckage was part of a craft that was planning on being used during the Cold War in an operation known as Project Mogul. They stated that the wreckage belonged to a series of high-altitude balloons that had been strung together and were equipped with audio equipment. This invention would then be sent to the USSR and would be used to spy on the Soviets in an attempt to keep up with their creation of nuclear weapons. Yeah, the Roswell UFO incident here, a cherished piece of New Mexico lore. You know, I think we've all heard about the conspiracies, we've all heard about the aliens, we've all heard about the UFO museum, but I'd actually never heard of the official government explanation that was given by the Air Force back in 1994. And I never had actually heard that the remnants of what they found was essentially part of a top secret operation that was going to be used to spy on the Soviets. But yeah, it's nice to know that the government would come out and give us this accurate information. They would never lie to us. They would never hurt us. We can definitely take this at face value. The very first incorporated town in New Mexico was Elizabethtown, a mining settlement located just northeast of Taos. The town was settled by Fort Union commander Captain William H. Moore back in 1866, and the settlement was named after Moore's 4-year-old daughter. At its peak, Elizabethtown reached a population of over 7,000 residents by 1870. By 1872, the town's population dwindled to a measly 100, and the entire town became almost completely abandoned by 1917. Infamous Wild West serial killer Charles Kennedy lived near Elizabethtown and would lure, rob, and ultimately kill unexpecting travelers in his cabin, offering them food and a place to rest. It is believed that Kennedy may have killed up to 100 people before being put in jail, but was eventually killed by 3 vigilantes who removed Kennedy from his jail cell and drug his body from the back of a horse until he died. Man, that's Wild West justice for you. Why can't they do that stuff nowadays? You know, obviously there were towns and settlements in New Mexico before Elizabethtown. Albuquerque was here, Santa Fe was here, the Pueblos had been here for hundreds of years. I would have never guessed that the very first incorporated town in New Mexico would have been one that just sounded so white. Although the movie E.T. the Extraterrestrial is a cherished classic Steven Spielberg film, the video game released in 1982 for the Atari 2600 is considered by most to be one of the worst, if not the worst, video game of all time. After the game proved to be a flop, Atari was stuck with hundreds of thousands of E.T. game cartridges, as well as other titles, that would go unsold. In an attempt to dispose of the cartridges to make room in their warehouse in El Paso, Texas, Atari struck a deal with the city of Alamogordo in 1983 to bury nearly 800,000 game cartridges in a city landfill. Much of the general public perceived this to just be an urban legend until the city of Alamogordo gave permission to multiple companies to excavate the burial site for the purpose of making a documentary back in 2014. Under a thick layer of concrete that had been poured over the cartridges nearly 30 years prior, only 1,200 or so were still intact. One of the cartridges was even given to the Smithsonian for preservation. But I'll tell you what's wrong with the kids these days, it's the damn video games. I'll tell you what, now they have the fancy PlayStation 360s and whatnot. Back in the day, we had to play games that were so bad that they deserved to be thrown in landfills. There are too many awesome choices for these kids nowadays, I'll tell you what. But I'll tell you what built character was playing these games that were so bad that they deserve to be thrown in a landfill for 30 years. Damn kids. Boy ain't right, I'll tell you what. The town of Madrid, New Mexico, and yes, it is pronounced Madrid, there's an emphasis on the mad part. So before you say, oh, stupid white guy, it's Madrid, you never heard of Madrid, Spain? No, there is an emphasis on Madrid, so cut me some slack, okay? The town of Madrid, New Mexico became famous after making an appearance in the 2007 biker comedy Wild Hogs. However, before becoming a quirky hippie town, Madrid was once a thriving coal mining town with a semi-professional baseball team. In 1919, newly appointed superintendent of the Albuquerque and Cerrillos Coal Company, Oscar Huber, began building a baseball stadium and formed a baseball team that was composed of employees of the coal company. The AA Madrid Miners played ball in Madrid from 1920 to 1950, and were apparently a good team, occasionally signing ringers to help them beat other semi-professional squads from around the state. Oscar Huber Memorial Field, which still stands today, was the first baseball field west of the Mississippi to install lights back in 1928. For some context, the very first professional game under lights at the professional level would not happen until 1935. Man, I don't know why, just reading this, it just reminds me so much of that episode of The Simpsons where they hire all those MLB studs to work at the power plant so they can play for their softball team. And I bet you back in the day, they got Babe Ruth over there with a pickaxe. They had shoeless Joe Jackson over there pushing a coal cart. Face is black and smudged with coal. But yeah, Oscar Huber Memorial Field. I've actually seen this field in person. I've driven by it and I've taken pictures of it, and it is just so weird. You're driving through Madrid. If you come in through the south, you drive through town, and at the north part of town, there's just this elaborate baseball field. It looks so out of place. But I would have never guessed driving by this that the stadium was actually built back in the 20s and was the first field west of the Mississippi River to install lights back in 1928. All right, last one here. This one goes out to all the hunters out there. In the late 1960s, the New Mexico Department of Game and Fish wanted to give hunters a better shot of bagging large game in southern New Mexico. In order to do this, they needed to introduce a new species of large game into the environment, specifically ones that were acclimated to the unforgiving desert heat. From 1969 to 1977, approximately 95 African oryx were released into the wild at White Sands Missile Range. The oryx, which had been brought to New Mexico from the Kalahari Desert, have gone on to thrive in their new home, with the population currently sitting above 5,000 in the wild. However, the oryx is not the only animal that has been imported to New Mexico for the purpose of hunting. A small population of Persian ibex were brought to New Mexico from Iran in 1970 and was introduced to the mountains southeast of Deming. Also, the Barbary sheep, native to northern Africa, were introduced to southern New Mexico and the Texas Panhandle back in the 1950s. Now, I do not remember who told me this, but I know it was somebody that enjoys hunting. They had told me that the reason that we had oryx and ibex and all of these exotic animals here in New Mexico was because, like, at some point decades ago, the New Mexican government made a deal with some, like, Nigerian prince. And I'm a little relieved to know that this is the legitimate reason for these animals being here. It was very, very relieving to know that New Mexico didn't open up any spam emails from a Nigerian prince. You know, it's just not a good look to get into business with Nigerian princes nowadays. That's how they get you. So yeah, that's gonna do it for this 10 weird, unique facts about New Mexico video. If you enjoyed it or if you learned a little something from it, share, subscribe, comment, like, and if you guys want to see more types of videos like this that are slightly educational but still entertaining, if you like those more than the storytime videos, just let me know. I had a lot of fun doing the research for this video, and there's a lot of other weird stuff I probably could have put on here. So if you guys would like to continue to learn a little bit with me, just let me know and I can continue this series as well. So that's going to do it for today. I will see everybody later.